The record.
And I'm going to hit go live. Where's the go live button? Cool. And I'm going to watch the screen. And I'm going to hit share. Got it. Share screen. This one. And go back to this. Boom. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Here, those who don't remember or have never met me, then let me introduce myself. I'm Teddy Burriss. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach for the company called Burriss Consulting. My co-host, partner in crime, good buddy is Mr. Randy Wooden. He's the one, the other dude, the shiny head over here. And our special guest today is Colleen VonDohlen. We'll talk about her in a minute. Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy is sponsored by the Elder Law Firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. The Elder Law Firm is all about helping you stay focused to your desire to help those that you care about, whether that's in estate planning or elder care planning. Reach out to the Elder Law Firm in Greensboro, North Carolina, and strike up a conversation with them. Promise you it'll be a worthwhile conversation. Randy, dude, good to see you, man.
Yeah. Hey, back last go around here for the month of August.
Did I give you enough time to do everything you needed to do?
I did. Yeah. I'm lickety split, Teddy. Now that, I stayed up all night working on it. And so I'm a technical whiz and I'm ready today. I'm ready to learn some stuff. But before we dive into our topic today, Randy Wooden, Goodwill Industries, Northwest North Carolina, and the director for our professional center. Goodwill has a professional center. Yeah, it does. It's
and you run it.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, actually, it's the first of its kind for any Goodwill in the country. We started this thing about 10 years ago, and they hired me to start it, and we have survived a recession or two and some good times as well, and still alive and doing our thing. But yeah, if you know somebody that might be in a job search and they're professional, maybe they're an MBA graduate, maybe they're not, whatever. But if they're so inclined and would like some free help, and I'm happy to do it. So there you go, Teddy. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, yeah, man. So the last, man, we move into month 9. You know, the year's quickly going away. So again, those that have never met me, I love showing up here and doing this, but I also love helping people learn to use LinkedIn as a business tool. We learn how to use Google Workspace as a business tool. That's what our business is all about. But you know what? Today, this conversation is all about my good friend, Colleen VonDohlen. She's the Associate Director of Wake Forest MBA programs, as well as the Market Readiness and Engagement in Wake Forest School of Business. Colleen, thanks for showing up to hang out with us today. I appreciate you. Would you introduce yourself to the audience a little bit more and then be ready for Randy's question?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Teddy and Randy, for having me in one of your lunch conversations. This is something we've tried to figure out for a while. I'm so glad to be here and enjoy the energy of these two gentlemen. So pleased to be here. Again, my name is Colleen. My name is Colleen VonDohlen, and I'm an associate director with MBA programs at Wake Forest University. So I support our evening MBA program for working professionals. I also support our online MBA program, and I also work with alumni from the School of Business, from all programs that the School of Business houses. So I have been with Wake Forest for 12 years. Originally, I was with the full-time MBA program. That was from about 2004 to 2008. And when I decided to have a third child, I took a step back and left Wake Forest. And in 2014, there was a position very similar to what I was doing with the full-time MBA program, but with the working professional evening space. And they were foolish enough to let me interview and welcomed me back. So I have been dedicated to the evening MBA program since 2014. My role is Associate Director for Market Readiness and Engagement, or MRE, which is a lot of fancy higher ed mumbo jumbo words for basically career services. So I work with the students that I mentioned earlier in the other programs, I am their dedicated resource for all things career related, which could be anything from somebody looking to pivot into a different career, looking as to how they can leverage their MBA experience to enhance the trajectory that they're already on with their company. And I'm available for, all kinds of conversations where we have students who are trying to figure out what's the best way to approach management for a raise or a promotion, or how do I talk about travel concerns I may have in my role coming back from COVID. It's just all kinds of different conversations. So I'm that dedicated resource. And prior to my time with Wake Forest, I spent about 15 years with Xerox Corporation up in Rochester, New York, which isn't their main headquarters are in Connecticut, sort of where their C-level people sit. But everything that happened with Xerox happened in Rochester, New York. And it was a great privilege to work for that company. Because of some personal reasons, I transferred down to North Carolina in the mid 90s and have been a transplant here in North Carolina ever since.
Cool. Hey, Ted, did you hear that? She can help me.
No,
I'm sorry. She can help.
I heard that.
Colleen. She can help people talk to their, by the way, Teddy's not my boss. His boss is his Mrs. Burriss. He doesn't pay me. I don't pay him, but we joke that I work for Teddy and I'm always trying to hit him up for a raise or, extend the budget to, pay for
you're
new
highly
clothing
respected, Randy, in your role, but you getting all you getting.
I heard you. Hey, always ask the why question. You're passionate about what you do. You wouldn't be doing it if you weren't, right? So, and all of our guests that we've had, I can't think of any exceptions. They really dig what they do. They love it. And usually there's a why behind that. I'm always curious about what that is. What is it in your case?
Well, the why is a bit of a journey. And, one of the things I work on with my students, especially and alumni as well, if they're looking for what's that chapter 2 going to look like for me. I'm still going to work another 20 years, but I don't enjoy what I'm doing, or I want to do something else, or students that are looking to make a pivot. One of the things we go through is what in your current role jazzes you, what gets you out of bed, and what are the things that if you never had to do it again in a job for the rest of your life, you would be just elated. So that was how I kind of formulated a little bit of my journey from Xerox. I really enjoyed working for the company, but I did manage 36 people across 3 states, a lot of windshield time. And I started thinking about, for the people that I supported, what was the thing that I enjoyed the most? And that was very easy for me. It was the professional development of the people that reported to me. I mean, there was the day-to-day things. We had clients and customers, but it was sitting down with folks that reported to me when they would say, well, Colleen, what should I be working on? What should I be developing? What do you think my career looks like? What would be the next things in terms of a professional development plan that I need to put together to get to the next level? What does the next level look like? For me, that was the most personally and professionally rewarding part of that job. The other piece that came into play is a lot of my role with Xerox was going out to clients and accounts. And I found that the accounts that I enjoy being at the most were my higher education accounts, Wake Forest, a little school out in Chapel Hill that has something to do with blue and heels of tar. But I loved being at those universities, and Forsyth Tech Community College here locally. That was an account I spent a lot of time with. I just like the atmosphere, the energy of the students. So that is where, and this is a big part of what I counsel students on, and I know Randy and Teddy, you live and breathe this. When I realized what my passions were and what I liked the most about my current job, networking, that was the next big thing. I started reaching out to people that I knew were involved with, in particular, Wake Forest, because I reside here in Winston-Salem. That was my primary target. And I started just having conversations with people and sharing, all this experience I had from corporate coming into academia. I was sure I could provide value and a perspective, not having my whole career in higher ed, but coming from corporate and being able to help, students navigate how to make those changes.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy helping students. That is the most satisfying thing. If we can make progress, take steps, connecting them with the right people to continue conversations, getting their resume to a point where they really are marketing themselves. A lot of people don't understand that whether you're in sales or not, your resume and your interview skills, you're in marketing.
Yeah,
You
every
have
day.
to be able to market yourself.
You are.
So
Hey, by
interviewing
the way,
skills, resumes, all those pieces.
sorry to jump in.
No,
If you've
absolutely.
got comments or questions for Colleen, please put them in the chat.
Yeah.
And if you're watching us on LinkedIn or I think we're streaming live across the entire galaxy, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, we had president of Foresight Tech on last week to Janet Spriggs to talk about the value of technical colleges, community colleges, and how the role that they play in that whole matrix of education. And so today, and I'm glad that Teddy invited you on here, we're going to get a different perspective.
Yeah.
This is from the MBA, the master's level education. So Teddy, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yeah. So
And we can get started with some of the questions and comments. But yeah, if you've got them, put them in the chat. I'll try to work them in.
So let's chat about that, Colleen. I mean, this is an MBA is a big step for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so, to talk a little bit about what does an MBA look like? How does it fit into a working professional's career?
Certainly. So, as you said, Teddy, and it can't be said enough, it's a big decision, big commitment to come to an MBA program. And one of the things we do when we speak with candidates is we ask them what their support system looks like. We certainly don't want to have students feel like they're, perhaps sneaking out of work or leaving responsibilities to their coworkers because they're in an MBA program that starts at 6 p.m. They need support from their managers, from their coworkers, and from their families. We generally, during the admissions process, we involve spouses and significant others and families to make sure that there is that support system, because students won't succeed without it. It is a big commitment. We have found that it typically takes our students right around 3 years to actually flip the switch. From the time they start thinking, what about an MBA program? And then they start researching. They might come to some of the events that we host. We have information sessions, and we have happy hour get-togethers and interactions with current students and alumni, so candidates can get a really good feel for the program, because it's our students that really give the best insight as to what the experience is. What does time management look like? We've even had candidates talk about to current students, things that I'm involved in, like extracurricular activities or yard care. What should I be getting my lawn mowed while I'm in this program? It's like, yes, try to outsource, anything you can so you can be focused on the program. So it is a big commitment, and there's a lot of conversations that go on. But for our working professionals, we have classes 2 nights a week from 6 to 9:30. And we typically tell students, although this fluctuates semester to semester, to count on spending somewhere between 20 to 25 hours a week in their MBA. And that includes the class time.
Yeah.
So the things that are outside of class time, we do put the students on project teams, which is one of the most valuable parts of the program. So they might meet outside of class time. to work on projects and whatever they, might need to do to meet a deadline for a class. Our program is 20 months at Wake Forest,
Yeah.
5 semesters, and it is 45 credits, and it is a general management degree. So it's all aspects of management. It's organizational behavior, it's ethics, it's operation, it's accounting, it's financial management, it's marketing. And then there's an opportunity in the 3rd semester for students to start exploring electives. And we have electives in certain concentrations that are strategy leadership, business analytics, and finance.
So it's it's not the cost is one big obligation, but the time is probably a much bigger obligation. The commitment to be able to achieve is critical.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have relatively small classes, which I think is one of the things that our students that are on campus enjoy the most. Our classes are around 40, 45 people. So certainly for folks who hope they can kind of sit in a back row and not get called on, this is not the program for them. We're not a class of 300 like some of our other institutions, some of the other institutions here in the North Carolina area. So it's small. It's a lot of class discussion, a lot of interaction. It is, although there are some classes that are lecture-based, it is primarily a case-based curriculum.
I got
So
you.
you read cases, you discuss them in class, you talk about amongst our diverse group of students, because they're from all areas of organizations and business.
Yeah.
So there's different perspectives that are discussed during class time, and in many cases, there is no right answer to some of the things they're looking at in from a business perspective.
I've visited your evening classes. You've had me come in and say hi to a bunch of your classes, and I love seeing that diversity of humans and that diversity of industries. It was really cool to see all those different perspectives. And you're right. I mean, if I just sat down with a bunch of social media strategists, and the only thing I hung out with was a bunch of social media strategists, I'd only have one viewpoint. But hanging out with business owners in different industries and different, different cultures, different countries, that's the richness that is hard to easily find. Let's talk about another big piece of this, Colleen, because this is important to people. People want to invest dollar and time often towards a goal, towards an ROI. So let's just get straight to it and tell me if if Burriss Consulting allows me to invest the time and dollar to go get my MBA, are we going to triple our revenue? No, I'm being facetious. I mean, big picture. How do MBA students look at that ROI, and not only from their perspective, because a lot of people go get their MBA at behest or recommendation of their employer. So it's not just for me, but it's also for my company. Talk about that value.
Right. Well, from the sort of 20,000 foot level, and then we'll kind of work our way down. So, any MBA program, will teach you regression analysis. There's only 4 P's in marketing. If you go to a different school, there aren't 5 or 6 P's in marketing. So a lot of the content is very similar. But at Wake Forest in particular, it's the delivery method, which, as I said, is case-based. And it's the, world-class esteemed faculty that we have that is just a driver to the depth of those conversations and learning and accessibility of the faculty to students because of our small class size. So from kind of, again, that 20,000 foot level, because of many of the things that we offer and the prestige of our students, U.S. World News and Report has ranked us the #1 part-time MBA program in North Carolina, and we're number 19 in the country.
Cool.
So we, that is US World News and Report is one of the more heavily weighted publications for rankings. So what am I trying to get to here is that from an ROI perspective, first you've got the Wake Forest brand name and all that allows. It does open doors. It is a recognizable name. And with that, we have a fantastic network. And because it's a small school and a small program, I feel like our alumni are much more willing to help current students or fellow alumni in situations like, hey, I need to make a connection, or I'm doing a job search. When you've got a huge school where they may have a bigger network, but sometimes it can be harder to access it or harder to personalize that network. But the ROI, I'm going to take it down to the more, student level. What we hear from our students time and time again, and I just heard a story. We did an orientation last week, and we just had an alumni share a story with our incoming students. Students are telling us repeatedly that they are learning something in class on a Tuesday night, and they're sitting in a meeting Wednesday, and they're realizing that the business problem that they're facing or the process that they need to rework, they have something to give to that and to add to that. And they can reflect on something they just learned in a class. They can reach out to a professor with that business problem that they're facing. And because of that, our students are being recognized quickly in their organizations. They're getting promotions, they're getting pay increases. In our class, I don't have the stats yet for our class that just finished in August, but for the class that finished last year in 2021, there was an average salary increase from the start of the program to when they finished of 38%. That's huge. 38% salary increase. And I think it was 68% of our students, I'm not exactly sure of that stat, but 68% of our students, I think it was, experienced at least one or more promotion while they're in the program. So they're being recognized, they're contributing, they're being tapped on the shoulder for special projects, for boards. We have a lot of folks from healthcare, and because they're in this business acumen program, they're being asked to be on administrative boards. So, and there's the ROI too, you can also put into the sense of confidence. You see students that come in, especially students that don't have a business degree, they come in a little timid saying, oh, I'm going to be in a class that has CPAs in it. And my degree was liberal arts or psychology or whatever it might be. And we do everything we can to position those students for success with, we don't call them prerequisites, but to ensure that they are on a team that can support them and that we provide them with the resources that even though they didn't take accounting in undergrad, they're able to ramp up and be effective in accounting classes in the MBA program.
And I see this, Colleen. Maybe it's because I hang out in Winston-Salem so much and I engage with so many different businesses and across the triad. But it's really pretty cool for me to see the business leaders that I engage with are Wake Forest MBA, and not only that, but also to see the organizations around the triad who are hiring, Wake Forest MBA grads, or let me just make it even broader. I mean, I love Wake Forest, but it's bigger than that. It's also hiring MBA students, no matter where they came from. And seeing those businesses look at their challenges different and achieve better goals, because they bring in a staff, they bring in an individual who decided, I want a little bit more. I want more knowledge. I want more engagement with people who, from an MBA program where I can, as you said, go to a class on Tuesday night and Wednesday be sitting in a meeting and go, I know the answer, or at least I know a way to get the answer. So, Winston-Salem is rich in businesses that are excelling and growing, and a lot of those businesses have MBA students on their team.
Yeah, and I would say, for students or for candidates who are really just looking to get the 3 letters behind their name, this is not going to be the program for them. And we try to do an effective job in our admissions process to make sure we're weeding out those folks. Because we want students that are fully engaged in the conversation, whether they are funding the education themselves or their employer is paying a part or all of it. We want students that are coming to class, are engaged, are part of the process.
Yeah, I get it.
Hey, I wanted to ask too, because I deal with job hunters, professionals across industries, across job functions and such, and occasionally, especially for somebody looking to make a change of industry, something different. Sometimes, in their view anyway, they sense that the MBA is an albatross around their neck because of the, gee, you're overqualified, gee, you're going to want too much money. And while they were the person had good intentions when they got the MBA, now they're kind of saying, I want to make a change, but I feel like I'm too heavy for the jobs that I'm applying for if I want to plug in somewhere else. And I'm sure you've had that discussion with students over the years that have approached you about saying, hey, I'm in a job search right now. How do you coach them to try to show that the MBA adds value and doesn't necessarily mean that they're overqualified? Is that something that comes up from time to time?
It does on occasion, and I've got a couple of scenarios that I think sort of will answer your question. What I am finding from looking at a lot of position postings is an MBA is or a master's degree, because there are other master's programs. There's masters in health administration, and there's some more specialized masters. But for anyone who's seeking leadership positions, a master's, and in our discussion, for the sake of our discussion, an MBA is almost a must. And I'm seeing positions posted where when I read the description, it doesn't necessarily sound like something that requires a master's, but then it will say it's preferred. And I think in many cases, employers see that once they have brought someone on board, they want to be able to cultivate them into other roles and want them to have that master's experience and education. And as I think Teddy had mentioned this earlier, some employers are sending their employees through an MBA program for leadership positions. And I think too that the pandemic has maybe added to this a little bit, but what we're seeing in higher ed right now is a potential deficit, a coming deficit in leadership skills for students that are, I'm sorry, not students, for folks that are maybe at a certain tail end of the millennial phase and then the Gen Z generation. There's been a little bit too much isolation and learning. Communication skills are at a deficit. So one of the things that the MBA is very powerful in is developing those communication and leadership skills, because I have heard, what for the sake of this conversation, we'll call them boomers, right? But I have heard some executives that are what we would classify as boomers saying they have no idea where tomorrow's leaders are going to come from because there's not that team aspect, there's not communication skills, and not leadership concepts and management skills being developed enough. And there are folks who have fallen quite comfortably into operating on a need to know basis. It's not as collaborative a team environment. People kind of work in their bubbles on a project and then hand it off to somebody else to do their piece. So really those leadership skills that can be cultivated in higher ed and as well as in your work experiences. Hopefully most of these folks have some sort of mentor that's helping them get those experiences in their company. But I think we're going to take a break, and I actually want to talk a little bit more to the career pivot piece that
Yeah, 'cause
Randy was.
that's a big issue. I mean, I deal with this my own self without a master's degree. You know, I've got 35 years in business experience, and, you know, people look at me and think that, you know, I'm the answer to every big global problem. And then I go look at something simple to do, and now they think you're out of your element. And so we all talk about that a little bit more because it is a big issue for a lot of people. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest today is Colleen VonDohlen from Wake Forest School of Business MBA program. Our sponsors are the Elder Law Firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. To them, what's important to them is what's important to you as you honor the responsibilities to those that you are taking care of as they age. So if you're looking for conversations about estate planning, if you're looking for conversations about elder care planning, if you're looking for conversations about those 8 freaking documents that you've got to create so you make sure you got your plan in place, Teddy, then you need to reach out to the Elder Law Firm and strike up a conversation with them. 336-396-4551. Again, the Elder Law Firm. And when you call them, let them know that Randy told you to call. So let's just touch on that for one more minute, Colleen. It's a big issue for those of us who are, you know, moving past corporate America. You know, I've done all I need to do in corporate America, and I made my $16.5 billion in my mind, and now I want to go do something simpler. Now I want to go to a nonprofit, or I want to go to a small business and just be a, you know, what's the word, a single contributor. How does a master's graduate not have to hide their MBA when they go talk to somebody about a $50,000 a year job instead of the $500,000 job I had last year?
Right. So from a coaching perspective, when we see people who are doing some sort of career pivot, and it might be function, it might be industry, or it might be both. I mean, part of what I try to achieve with my coaching advice is, if we had, for example, someone who was working at one of the banks, let's say Bank of America, and they were a financial analyst there, and they wanted to switch to CPG, let's say Procter & Gamble, and they wanted to do marketing. Maybe their ultimate goal is they'd like to do brand management. What I would probably try to coach them is that there's going to have to be some transition steps getting from banking finance analyst to marketing CPG company. But what's great is that there's so many transferable skills, and I don't think people do a great job on their own of realizing this. But when you think about someone who does a financial analyst role at, say, Bank of America, what is marketing these days if it's not analytics and data? And so while this person may be saying to me, I really want to be in brand management, I'm probably going to advise them, how about we look at a marketing research role, marketing research analyst, you know, at Procter & Gamble. You can work for the Tide brand, you can, you know, run analysis, and you'll get to a point where you're making recommendations, helping with strategy. And if you perform and you're recognized, you'll move on. Now, for some, that wouldn't be what we would call maybe an MBA level role. But I think a lot of our students understand when they're making that big a pivot that they might have to take a step back for a year or two before they can achieve their, you know, ultimate goals that would provide them with what I would call MBA level work and responsibility, and of course, compensation. So I get it. I'm sorry,
I get it. And I was gonna say, you know, even going to taking my, you know, my graduate degree, my master's degree, and going to Home Depot and working as a customer service rep, you can draw a picture to that hiring manager and say, you know what, I'm glad I got my master's degree, and this is how it's going to help me in this role. I understand problem solving. I love to help solve problems, whether they're at the corporate level or customer service level. I understand leadership skills and communications, and this is going to be critical for me to be good as a customer service person at Home Depot. There's a way to draw that picture. You just got to be able to have that conversation.
Yep, you have to have a strategy to it. And I mean, the verbiage you used right there, Teddy, was perfect to understand that you're ready for the challenges of the role, not perhaps in the examples that we're using, oversell too much, because people will be concerned that at an MBA, you might grow tired or unchallenged quickly, but to assure an employer that you're going to grow and be able to accept more challenges in a role. It's a tough world right now for, I think, for employers to make the financial commitment to have their employees go through the MBA program. We certainly are seeing a challenge with that. Whereas, 5 or 10 years ago, there was a very clear path for people that were in leadership development programs at companies to go through an MBA program. But we are in a love 'em or lose 'em marketplace right now. If employees don't feel like they're getting professional development, they're going to go elsewhere. So I think it's interesting for people in human resources right now, because you want to get people committed and invested and give them professional development. So the MBA program is a great opportunity to afford an employee for longevity, but they also have fear that, well, when they get this MBA, are they going to hang around? And some of them do have agreements for how long an employee has to stay afterwards, or else they're responsible to pay a portion back. So a lot of companies have that structure in place, but it's challenging right now, because certainly companies want to see the fruits of that education impact the organization.
And this is critical. I mean, we are in a fast changing world of employment, and maybe more impactful, we are in a fast changing world of how businesses in all industries are delivering their products and services. So organizations who go, this is not a good time for me to send, any of my team to an MBA program. What they're saying is, I don't need to learn anything new. We're good. We'll keep, swinging the hammer the same way, even though the nail has moved on. And so, I think it's a mistake.
Yeah. And when we talked earlier about the diversity of our students, we obviously have some people from traditional business backgrounds. We usually have a couple CPAs in a class, people in finance, but we've got entrepreneurs. In each class, we typically have one or two school teachers looking to make a change. And we have seen a lot of engineers in the past few years coming through the program. And, why would an engineer need an MBA? Well, a lot of these engineers, after they have been in their profession and in their craft and working on projects for a number of years, they get to the point where they're like, well, I want to lead some projects. I want to lead people. I want to lead projects. And I want to know when I sit in a meeting and the finance guy throws up a P&L, a profit and loss statement, that I know what in the world they're talking about. I need to have that business acumen. We've seen that too in healthcare with people who run labs. Why would someone who runs a biomedical lab need to come through an MBA program? Because they need that business piece and those leadership and ethics skills to run business.
You sound like my first boss in recruiting back in the 19 a long time ago. We used to I was an executive search guy, right? So we would recruit engineers, plant managers, mostly in manufacturing. So we were dealing with, we did some IT also, but we were dealing primarily with engineers. And one of the things this guy told me, he said, when we look to hire an engineer, we don't want a guy with a master's degree. We want doers, not thinkers. That was his words. But he said, when we look to hire people at the leadership, the management, the VP level, we almost always look for the MBA, because they have not just the techie skills, but they've got the business acumen to go along with it and the leadership skills. And they kept, and again, it was all manually kept on paper, like right here, but they used to track that stuff. They would track it, and very few placements of engineers had master level education, but almost everyone had, and this is back in the early 90s, almost everyone had an advanced degree hired at the executive leadership level. So but again, that was the case darn near 30 years ago. I can only imagine today the requirements that are out there for it.
Yeah.
You know,
So let's
off the soapbox.
I hear you, buddy. Yeah. Let's
good.
end the conversation. Let's talk about different ways to get an MBA.
Mhm.
And then you guys started this a while ago. You got serious about it during the pandemic, and that's an online MBA program. Now, a lot of people who think about online MBA programs, they think, they may think that this is a simple, easy way to get through it. That's not necessarily the case. Talk a little bit about Wake Forest MBA, online MBA program, and what you guys are doing with it to make it as impactful as you can.
Sure. So, an important aspect of education, and we certainly found everyone realized it during the pandemic, if they weren't already aware, is to have some flexibility and some hybrid options. So for the Wake MBA, we of course have the on-campus in-person experience in Farrell Hall, which is the backdrop behind me. It's our beautiful School of Business, Farrell Hall. And that meets Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 9:30 for those 5 semesters. We have mini breaks, during the holidays, and we have a mini break in May, but we go through the summer and keep on going. So we also have a beautiful campus in Charlotte, uptown Charlotte, and they meet on Mondays and Wednesday evenings, and it's the same class and the same professor. So a professor that teaches in Charlotte on Monday night teaches in Winston on Tuesday night.
Oh, cool.
We also have a Charlotte Saturday program, which is going to be moving into more of a hybrid model, which is going to be a combination of an in-class experience and asynchronous and synchronous online sessions. We have a lot of folks in that program who do perhaps too much business travel during the week or have other commitments, so the evening courses aren't really an option for them. So Charlotte Saturday is. And then, as Teddy alluded to, we have an online MBA program, and they run in more of a flexibility, what we call carousel mode. So we have 3 intakes a year for that. We have a May and an August and a January intake for the online MBA program. And I failed to mention the on-ground programs. We have just 1 intake a year in August. So we are now looking at, building our class for next August. So for anyone interested, we'd love to talk with you or have you come in to sit in on a class or something. But so the online MBA program is the same curriculum, and it is a combination of asynchronous and synchronous work. So folks do have some sessions where they're together as a class, and then there are some work responsibilities for the class that they do on their own, and they do have a team component. So there is still that team interaction. And for a lot of folks, the online MBA for professional and personal reasons is really, the best option. So we are happy to be able to offer that.
Especially if they're out of town. One of our attendees is out of state, and wondering just about if you guys offer that remote option, and it sounds like you do. So, right, all good. Yeah.
Well, here, let's get the other question that Debbie just dropped in chat, Randy. Post MBA, is there a value, in a DBA, and does Wake Forest offer that as a remote option? Is she referring to a doctorate?
That's what I'm wondering. We do not have,
doctorate.
We do not have a doctorate program in business.
Okay.
And I know of no plans to develop that. We do
Okay.
have PhDs in our program, but they're science PhDs that are doing a concurrent PhD and MBA at the same time. They do their PhD work, and we're partnered with the law school as well. So we have
Yeah.
students who, and I can't even fathom this, they go to law school during the day and they come to the MBA program at night, and they love it because the law school is much more of a competitive environment.
Mhm.
You know, you have to be in the certain X% to really get the good job offers, and that they really are, you know, competing against one another. And they love the collaborative environment of the MBA program and the teams. But to answer Debbie's question, no, we do not have a doctorate
Yeah.
business degree.
Yeah, they're so busy, but you know, they take time to watch Lunch with Randy and Teddy every
Yeah.
Wednesday. Just to let you know.
And Randy, should we go ahead and offer to Debbie that you and I both have our doctorates in what we do? And so if Debbie wants to find out how to get a doctorate in context of what Randy and I do, give us a call. We'll talk to you about that. And that's pure satire.
You better
So
believe it is.
You better believe it is.
And the other thing I might mention
Yeah,
is we
yeah.
do have this is only about a year and a half in process, but we have a School of Professional Studies out of Charlotte, but the programs are all online. So if like Debbie, for instance, if there were some particular areas of expertise that you wanted to have some insight into, like we have a master's in project management. I think there's one in healthcare and there's one in data analytics. So we have some programs to supplement MBAs, because unlike a full-time MBA program, in a full-time MBA program, the entire second year is devoted to your concentration, whether it's marketing or ops or finance. In the part-time MBA program that we have, it's not a deep dive, it's a shallow dive. So for some, these programs that the School of Professional Studies puts out can be a nice supplement for some areas that they're interested in. And I think there are some cost advantages to for alumni of Wake Forest.
So Lisa just asked a question that I had on my list to ask you about, and that is certificate programs.
Right.
And
well, in the Wake Forest School of Business structure, we don't have certificate programs, but out of our School of Professional Studies, and we have an executive education program that does certificate classes, and they're probably too many for me to name. I would probably advise, Lisa, that you go to the School of Business website and look under executive education, as well as links to the School of Professional Studies. And you'll see, you know, it's everything from, there's some leadership and behavioral certificates to very specifics in marketing. I think they did one on search engine optimization marketing. There was a certificate to cybersecurity, project management, as I mentioned, data analytics. There's an advanced finance. So there are some different certificates. And thank you, Teddy, for throwing that in the. And now that's the link to the MBA program. If you back out of that to the main School of Business page, you'll find some of those certificate programs. And for folks, we get these requests on occasion. Our executive education program will customize classes for industries. We've worked, I'm not sure I can mention their names. We've worked with some very important clients in the North Carolina area who have said, we would like Wake to design, you know, a specific class for our operations people, or a specific class for our folks who are about to enter the second tier of management. We want them to get some more leadership experience. So there is that ability for executive education to customize classes.
Yeah. Look at Ryan asked a pretty interesting question. He's got a doctorate in some form of science.
Mhm.
The question is, should I also go get an MBA so I can take, you know, my skills and get into management roles?
I would say absolutely.
Mhm.
Because as a PhD scientist, I kind of like telling this story. Years ago, we had a neuroscientist. He hated to be called this, but he was a brain surgeon. He operated on people's skulls. And he was going through the program because he wanted to, number one, open his own practice, and he wanted to sit on some pretty heavyweight hospital boards. So he realized that without that MBA, that business acumen. Now, does he utilize all aspects of the MBA program in what he needed to accomplish? Probably not, but he really understands the language. So from my experience talking with our students that are in science fields, when they get to the point where they want to actually run a lab, run projects, run a business unit, they need something beyond just their PhD in science. They need to take some business classes. And I will tell you, our brain surgeon struggled with accounting and some other classes. So just because
I'm glad he didn't struggle with brain surgery. Let's just say I don't want the apprentice guy working on this thing. Hey, and that kind of reminds me of back, like I was telling you, back when I started in recruiting, the hands-on engineer or the hands-on scientist. That's one set of skills. It's the leadership, it's the project, it's that, and that's the value of adding that MBA piece, the business piece, to the what I'll call the technical side of things. We got
a few minutes left.
Okay.
And by the way, while you were sharing that, Randy, I did a search. There's over 150 people in North Carolina who have a doctorate and an MBA.
Okay. I didn't make that list. Did I, Teddy? I don't think I made the list.
I can't scroll down that far, Randy. I don't know.
All right. It's because W is at the bottom. So we'll go with that. Let's move right along quickly.
Yeah. So Colleen, this is great because I mean, a lot of people, need to be looking at this and figuring out, is it right for me? I mean, that was the reason why we decided to have the show, to let people learn some ideas and perspectives to decide, is it right for me? And so let's just talk about that for a few minutes before Randy and I start tell a story and I tell a story and we introduce next week's guest. Talk a little bit about how you can help people decide if it's right for me.
Well, one of the things, as I said earlier, it can take a bit of time to realize if this is, right fit. Probably the biggest thing we do to help people decide is connect them with one of our student ambassadors, because they can answer all the real world questions about, how are you balancing this? How many hours a week are you studying? Are the classes valuable? Are you getting a lot out of it? Are the professors engaging? All those questions. So we would try to connect someone with a student ambassador. We invite them for a class visit. We have happy hours where they can meet current students and meet the rest of the staff. I've got fantastic staff that works with me and is more on the admission side and can answer questions about, potential scholarships, all types of things. So, and we have information sessions. So we look for students to have or applicants to have at least 2 years of work experience. Our classes average around 8 years of work experience. And we have them in for an interview. The application we've made as bare bones as possible. We used to ask for recommendations and all that stuff. Applications shouldn't take more than 20 to 30 minutes to fill out. And it's really just to understand if we're the right fit for this student. Undergraduate, bachelor's degree is also a requirement, and all those things are on the website.
Yeah, I think the big answer in my mind is if it's something I think could be beneficial, then I need to stop thinking and I need to go do the research to decide if it really is or not. And
Absolutely.
Conversations.
Yeah, and on the website, there's an opportunity to have a consultation with our executive director, Kevin Bender.
Okay.
That's how a lot of people start. They just have a phone conversation or a quick Zoom session to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking of. Do you think Wake is a fit? And sometimes that's the easiest way to start, even before you do all that research, is to just have a conversation with my good friend, Kevin Bender.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So, yeah, I'm fortunate. I moved into North Carolina and hang out with a lot of Wake grads and a lot of spaces. And so it is one of my really, really fabulous schools. And it is on the top of the list of my fabulous schools. My other ones are good schools too, Colleen, but I'm not a Wake grad, but I am absolutely a Wake fan, and specifically for the MBA program. So, all right, Colleen, Randy and I are going to tell a story. We're going to introduce next week's guest. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Colleen.
I'll share all the links so people can find the links of how to follow you and go visit the school and learn more.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I
Good.
hope we had some.
That was
good
painless,
folks.
right? That was painless.
It was painless.
It was painless.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
just
Thanks,
a
Colleen.
conversation, pretty easy. And I
All right,
see there's some
hang tight,
conversations
Colleen.
in the chat.
Yeah, hang tight. If you want to answer a comment on the chat, go ahead and do it. Randy, do you have a story that Colleen made you think of?
Kind of, sort of. I think back to when my dad was a young man. Having a high school diploma that's about all you needed, for the most part. It really was. You can get a decent job, support a family, the whole deal, right? Yeah. Well, fast forward to my generation, the boomer generation. You could still get by with a high school diploma, but you needed more. Whether it's a 4-year degree, 2-year degree, skilled trade, you got to get something, right? And so I got my 4-year degree and had gotten into any college I'd applied to, and just felt like, the world owed me because I was so bright. No, Teddy, I'm only kidding. But anyways, first time I heard no. I applied for a master's program in sports administration at a college at a university in Ohio, named Ohio University, actually. And I got rejected first time ever. And I'm like, holy cow, I guess this is competitive.
Yeah.
And the master's program was competitive. And over the years, there's been a couple of times that I have talked about applying for a job that required an MBA. And I said, but I have umpteen years of experience. And they said, it ain't happening. It's either yes or no, you got it or you don't.
Yeah.
And so I like what you guys have kind of talked about here as far as having that in your toolbox, and also in the chat. You know what? You may not need it today, but down the road, as you look at your career 4, 5, 10 years later, you're going to need it if you want to continue to progress. Yeah. And so it adds another layer of value that you bring to the company, but also on paper, it punches your ticket to the interview, because without it, you're not going to get off, get away from home plate.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's my story, Teddy.
I'm with you. Colleen referred to this earlier.
Yeah.
She said, Colleen, under where it says to in the chat box, it says host. You should be able to change that to everyone. Oh, I fixed it. My bad. My bad. I fixed it. So I'm learning, Colleen, I'm learning. There's 2 check boxes I had to hit. Hey, Colleen mentioned this earlier, the ROI to education of any type. Okay. In this context, your master's degree, but the ROI is not just you have better skills. The ROI is not just you're going to be able to help a business be more successful. The ROI is not just you're going to be able to solve problems differently and better. I know from my own personal experience, not having an MBA, but just from learning and growing and going to that next level, I feel more confident. I believe in myself better. And that is there is no dollar you can associate with that feeling. And I think that is really something that we may not be looking at enough when we're considering investing in this next level of growth, this next level of professional development, is how is it going to make you feel as a professional? I'd wager that our audience and those watching this show who do have their master's, their MBA, etc., ask yourself, do I feel better because of this? And, who's some of the people in the audience right now that have, chimed in? Ryan and Debbie, Lisa, how did your education and your educational growth make you feel? And I'm betting confidence is a big piece of it. So Colleen, again, thank you very much for showing up today and sharing with us. Hey, next week, it's going to be another cool show. I mean, Randy and I are knocking it out of the park with the quality and the value of our special guest. Next week, we have Jonathan Hyman. Jonathan is an employment law specialist. Jonathan is coming to the show to talk about employment law issues, and he is also going to open up that can and have a conversation about unions and what's going on with unions, and how unions are going to play a different role in our employment state, and not only across the country, but including in North Carolina. Colleen, my friend, good seeing you. Randy, my buddy, good seeing you. All of our audience, thank you for coming. We will see everybody next week.
Great. Thank you.
Everybody.